Sometimes when you choose to use a platform, there's a sense of concern that the platform is going to be a black box. You're not going to have access. If something goes wrong during the process, that you're not going to be able to get in there and figure it out, fix it, and understand. It's just going to be a really long, painful back and forth process. Well, with Nanobox, that's one of our core ideals is that we do not want to have a developer locked out of the platform, or we don't want to limit access in any kind. And so what I want to show now in this demo is how if something goes wrong during the deploy process of building the runtime to be able to ship that up, how can we get in and introspect and have our hands in that environment to see what's blocking, what's getting in the way, what's not working. So to do that, we're gonna do a contrived we're gonna make a contrived scenario here, and what we're gonna do is we're going to specify some deploy config. And in the deploy config, one of the cool things that you can do is you can actually add extra steps. So these are just commands that that you might need to run as part of creating the deploy process. Maybe that's compiling assets. Maybe it's updating some config file or somewhere. And I'm just telling it right now to run the command false, which is going to fail. The exit code will not be 0, and it will cause the deploy process to fail. So here's what this would look like if I was doing a normal deploy. It would start to build the environment, and immediately we see that something went wrong here. So maybe we try that again. Was that intentional? Was that not intentional? And what's kind of interesting here is that we don't really have enough information, and so we might immediately think, oh no, what's going on? Well, the next step is that I'm going to hit the verbose flag. So by default, Nanobox tries to keep the output nice and clean, and then when I hit the when I make it verbose, it actually looks like oh, right. So this actually failed for another reason, but one thing that's nice is that simply adding the verbose flag, I'm actually able to get more information. And what's telling me is that this is an invalid formatting of the box file. It's interpreting that as a Boolean instead of a string to be run as a command. So we can already see that the -v process, the -v flag gives us additional information. So now it's going to run through, get everything ready, and we'll see that when we're actually running the deploy process, that it tries to run that command, and that fails. So because that fails, we might be thinking, well, I wonder why that failed. Is maybe something not on the path? Is it missing a dependency? Well, how in the world would I get in there? Well, Nanobox comes to the rescue here and allows you to specify a --debug. I'm going to go ahead and suppress that -v. I don't like to get all of the output. I like the summarized version. And once that fails, Nanobox is actually going to drop us into the environment. So we'll see here, and if I were to kind of scroll up a little bit more, we'll see that it actually failed to run this. It's saying, hey, failed to run this task false, exit code 1. And here's the full command. I know it's a little bit tricky because there's just a lot of environment variables that we put there. But we can see that it actually tried to run false, return to 1, exit code. And then it dropped us into debug mode into that container. So what I see here is that if I ls, oh, okay, so I see my source code. And if I were to cat the box file.yaml, I see my box file. And do I have Python or Ruby or Erlang or Java, whatever you're using, maybe PHP, is that available? Yep, that's available. Okay. Did Did something happen with maybe our pip install or maybe Ruby gem install? No, everything looks good there. Well, what about my path? Maybe it's my path. So let me check my path. Okay, the path looks correct. And anyway, and so you can kind of see that you can do a full-on debugging process. In this case, it's obviously failing because we put in the false command, and I did that intentionally so that it actually would fail. But what I want to illustrate here is that you can fully investigate and debug inside of this environment. And once you're done, you simply exit out. It's just going to remind you, hey, this thing actually is failing. So I could go back and kind of make that true now that I understand what's wrong, and then deploy. And in this case, it's not going to fail, and it will actually deploy that right up to production. So cool. So hopefully you've been able to get a good sense and starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with Nanobox as you realize that there's really nothing that Nanobox is going to lock you out of. While yes, Nanobox adds a lot of automation and makes things really simple, it's never going to lock you out. There's really no point where you can't get in there and take a look around, poke around, figure out what's going wrong, and ultimately solve your own problem for you. So you'll never be beholden to Nanobox or the Nanobox staff to fix something for you. So cool. And then we can see there that after fixing that issue, everything went well. Deploys on its way. So again, thanks for watching this, and encourage you to stay tuned. We've got some cool stuff coming. Thanks.